All right, so we have the beginnings of this course editor, and we have style, the H2s. Let's one particular question that we might have here is that, well, I have this link here declaring the style of my documents, and I know that one of them says that that the H1 here is white. What if in my HTML in the style I have another H1 that says that the color is actually, or the background, right, is actually yellow, right? So if I go back and if I refresh this, notice that it changes to yellow. I have a collision between two rules, right? One rule is saying that the background should be blue or red, I forget, and the other one said that the background should be yellow, right? There's a collision between these two rules, and the basic the basic rule of thumb will be that, you know, whoever is closest in document order, right? Whoever's closest to the element wins, right? So if somebody's saying something and the other one's saying something, there's a contradiction, right? The one who's closest will have a higher priority than whoever's farther away, right? So if I'm linking a file, that file by definition is farther. I have to go fetch it, right? If I'm closer, this style is I'm closer to the element. The closest I can possibly be is to declare the style attribute right on the element, right? Where I can say that the background color is I don't know, black, right? And if I refresh, notice that it becomes black. So now I have three collisions. You know, the file is saying something, the local style element is saying something else, and the style attribute saying, you know, it's overriding everybody else. Right? It says no, it's black. That's also one of the reasons we don't want to use the style attribute, because there's no way for us to override it, right? From outside saying, well, I want to change it, right? Well, I guess you could use important, but nevertheless, we want to avoid using the style attribute. So yeah, so let me, I'll just leave it there as an example of collisions. The other rule of thumb is that the more specific you are, right, the more specific you are about a particular element, you know, the higher the priority, right? So if you're very vague and you're saying, well, I'm styling all the H1s, right? But if you're specifically talking about a specific H1, then that will have much more priority about instead of styling all the H1s. Yes. So let's see how we can be very specific about a particular element that we want to style. Notice that we have in our style sheet, we're styling all H2s. We're styling all H2s to have color yellow and to have background blue. Yes? Well, we can be more specific by declaring H2s to have a specific unique identifier, right? That says, hey, this is a very specific element. I know all H2s should have background blue, but this is a specific element that has a unique identifier that I want to treat it in a unique way, right? So we can specify uniqueness by using the ID attribute, and in the ID attribute, I can specify here a unique token, right? That it should be the only token that appears anywhere, right, in this page. So I'm going to use a naming convention. I'm going to say that this is webdev dash module list. Okay. This naming convention is notice that it uses a prefix, right? Webdev, and so that I know that this is an ID that I created, right? You know, we'll see in a minute that there might be different IDs or classes and whatnot that are being declared by other third-party tools that we might be using, right? So to distinguish the IDs and names that I create from IDs and names that somebody else creates, I'm putting a prefix in front of it. Make sense? So that there's no collision, there's no misunderstanding of who this ID or class belongs to. It's mine, right? And then followed by a short description of what this is semantically, right? It's a module list, right? So now that I have this unique identifier, I can go back in the CSS and say, hey, I know that all yes. Only as necessary. Yeah. So here, notice that we're saying that all H2s should have a background color of blue, right? I can override that and say that well, I know that all H2s should have a background color, but this particular H2 that has that specific ID, I don't want it to have blue. I want it to have something else, background color cyan. Okay, and the way I specify the ID is by using this hash. This hash says I want the H2 whose ID is webdev-module list. Yes, and I'm being very specific. Right, there's only one H2 that has that specific ID. Right, and the more specific I am, the higher priority that I am. Even though there's a collision between these two rules. Right, one is saying that all H2s should be blue. But here I'm overriding that this specific H2 should be cyan. So if I go back and I render that, notice that I now have the first module list as cyan, right? Very ugly color scheme. All right, so let's keep going. Notice that because this div is really unique enough, this ID is unique enough that I don't really need the H2. Right? Because IDs typically are meant to be unique within a page. So no other element is supposed to use this ID, right? Only this H2 is using this ID, right? So it's pretty unnecessary to have the H2 at all. I can just say hash module webdev module list, right? Without the need of H2, right? And this still, oops, this still works. Yes, right? When you have an ID. Well, it's just that's all as specific as you need to be. All right, everybody okay? All right. The other thing that we can do is that we might want to group certain things that must behave similarly amongst each other. So let's work on that.